that, let me share my screen here and we'll jump onto the interface so we can look at the course. All right, entire screen, and we'll share. And let me get this minimized. And let's see. Okay, we're not going to start. Well, we'll go there in a second. Let's start out in the actual course. Now you're going to see everybody got ACE and it's all graded and you've already passed the course. Well, this is last month's course. So, and we still have to do a little more work, but and by the way, forget the grade thing. You all have straight A's starting going in, and I have no doubt that you all get straight A's by the end of this. It's just if I give someone a B, I get an F. So I'm here to help you. If there's anything that you're trying to do on the sim and you can't do it, the only deadly thing is missing a meeting with your teammate. Don't do that. Make sure you get together, do Zoom. If you need a Discord server, if you want to do an iPhone, you really have to get your heads together because you work on the materials together and the whole class does. And when I give you these materials back, you just post them back into your presentation and stuff and it's done. That way you're not tripling the work. But if you look down at kind of every week that we have here, there are certain deliverables that are like in CLC. I haven't provisioned these yet because we're just starting the teams, but they will be by the beginning of next week. You also don't have access to the sim yet as an actual team because there's a couple of things you have to do, like the agreement form next week. And then by the third decision, this is where your actual first decision is, introduction decision is on Harvard. And now if you're saying, why do I have to keep going to Harvard? This is a combination GCU Harvard course. And you might think it's kind of a pain why I'm on their server and I'm dealing with Harvard stuff. In fact, if you need a token, we have to call them. The good news is you can put Harvard in your CV also. I intended the sim and I mean, you'll see it in the comments. It's a career helper because you're trying to get a job. You mention it. It's like, oh, you were on that. So many other people have been on it and executives take it. It's a really kind of bonding experience with recruiters and that kind of stuff. So initially when you went on here, there are things like the midterm exam. We have to do it because of benchmarks and there's an initial cornerstone to capstone exam. It's 25 points. You can still get an A+ in this course. The lowest grade I think I've gotten is a 3 and the highest is 24 of the 25 I'm just translated into points. If you slept through finance and accounting, don't worry about it. If you don't remember, Diane, that debits increase assets and decrease liabilities and equity, a lot of the questions are like that. But the thing that's interesting about it is that it's hard to get a 3 or a 5 on the exam because there's like 5 multiple choice and you can eliminate 2. And when you're down to 2, if you flip a coin, you'll get at least a 15 on it. So if worst comes to worst, it's like, let's use stochastics and do the statistical thing on it. Mega team values, mission, and vision. Every one of these has a thing that you drop into the CLC. The CLC is it's not as active as you might have seen it before because this isn't like a team thing where one person does all the work and then everybody else just goes on a ride. What you do is you work together. I give you the graphics and then you just plug them back in. And when you do your final decision, as you make a decision and you have the other teams change what happens and the market changes what happens, then I'll be giving you graphics. And in the final presentation, which is like 3/4 of your grade, as you get down here to the final presentation, executive summaries, and your winners and conclusions of the sim, you have all that data and stuff that I gave you. You plug them back in, you say, here's what we did right and wrong. And by the time you're done, it'll just be an amazing experience. You'll run this company and sometimes run it into the ground, and other times, which I've done more than once, and other times actually created a flywheel and done fantastic with it. So without further ado, let me jump into the sim just to show you the interface, and then we'll go over to the 485 site. Everything that you need in this class is under class resources. Sometimes you don't. Can everybody see class resources there where I am?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, we're going to class resources, and the very top one where you all registered, you're going to keep coming back to this again and again. This is Harvard right here where it says view resources, mega learning sim. However, down here, there are some really cool things. The strategy guide, yeah, that is basically our textbook, and you can read some chapters, jump in and jump out of things like SWOT, SMART, and other goals like that you apply to the sim. but it's not heavily emphasized because you're answering the questions, DQs, and participation within the sim. And I consider you already got 100% on participation because it is asynchronous. You can work whenever you want, but you can't do the sim at midnight on Saturday. The results are due the week before. So for week 3, during week 2, you have to get together, make your decisions. Now, the first decision, you have no market response and have no competitive. So it's just like, let's take our best guess on engineering the 4 car lines and doing some marketing and then see what happens. On the fifth decision, it's all done and it's fun. You've done the whole thing, you know what to do, and there's a certain trick on it you'll see in the video that you just go click, click, and it's done. It's like 3 minutes. Then you just put it all together in your presentation. You've got it. So don't get overwhelmed by all the other things it looks like you have to do because it's dropping things from the sim into the CLC box. And I'll show you how to do that in announcements. And if we need to talk, we'll talk on the phone. You can give me a call or I'll text and message you. You'll see I'll be doing tons of messages, putting DQs responses in there, just trying to communicate with you on how the sim is going. This we'll need to do by week 2, which is the agreement form. You're all just saying, yes, we'll participate. Let me just be honest. What this really is, it's like, okay, they know what the sim is. They've tried Harvard and we're now going to get together and do it. So you can even do it as a team. Everybody can just shake their head, yes. One person can say, yeah, everybody's okay with it. It's nothing legal. It's just kind of giving us a signal that everybody's ready to jump in. Um, PowerPoint presentations, I'm not into death by PowerPoint. When you do your final presentation, people are asking you, does it have to be 1,000 words? Does it have to be 1,700 words? It's like, no, it's got to be 7 minutes, 5 slides. You got to get in there, hit your C-suite team and get a win and have, okay, I got it. You've been funded. And that's it. So it's short and it's effective, but it's also got to be honest. If you took a bad turn in the sim and you crashed and burned, why did it happen? What was the course correction you did to fix it, and especially big data? What did we look at in terms of data analysis of the metrics of what was happening and how did we have to change those? Now we've got a ton of these YouTubes and some people binge watch it. It's not exactly an episode of the best, Netflix you've ever seen, but there are just tremendous resources here and on our site. I have a site with our course lead, Dr. Paul Waterman, and we've got a whole bunch of 8 or 9 videos, like before your first decision, before your second. Some are 5 or 10 minutes, some are like 45 minutes, like for the last decision. They're really worth watching. I have one that I did to take mercy on all my poor working students, which I have a day job too. And what it is you have to look at 100 slides, and I did 100 slides in 10 minutes. I think it takes you through all the slides on what is the sim about, etc. So that's really worth watching. But the most important one of all these, probably of all these videos here, is let's see, what is a decision video? The decision process explained, educator training 5. I know it's weird because it's way down here, but you click on this, you go to YouTube, and it explains what is a decision within the sim. Now I'll show you kind of on the sim what that is. But then there's other things like what's a scorecard? You download a log book and it's got 3 annex forms. You have to drop the annex in each CLC of 3 of the decisions. Now you don't have to write this down, understand this. I'm going to be texting you and telling you through the entire course where you have to drop what. But all it really is when you meet to do your decisions, you'll do the slider and then just documents it to help you for the next decision. So that's kind of it. I don't know what this is. Oh, this is our peer review. The only thing I can't guarantee in terms of everybody getting A's is that you have to review each other too. It just goes along with the whole Harvard theory of how did your team do? Did you work well as teams? That kind of stuff. So that's non-trivial because it's 290-point sessions, but I have nothing to do with that. I just believe what you tell me. So I don't have control over that of the peer review, but I'll show you how it works at least before there's 2 of them. One, I think, decision 5 and one decision 7. So that's just kind of, and as you have questions as you go along, just call me, text me, message me, and I'll respond immediately to any of your messages in the message center up here. But without further ado, let's jump into the view resource here, which is not going to take you to your red team or your blue or your yellow team because this is the instructor interface, but I can pretend I'm a student, show you where we go here. Uh, All right, we got universes overview. Let's jump into the sim itself. You're gonna be taken to you'll actually be taken to the your initial team. You won't go through all these other things that I go through, but the first thing you'll see on your screen is here I am on the red team, or here I am on the blue team, or here I am on the yellow team. And these, you have to learn that there's a whole bunch of user interface elements here in the sim. You are in the sim, you are red team right now, and this is where you make your decisions. All the decisions are pretty much up here under the decision link up on top. And so when you go to that, you can either make decisions within your business lines, which are the four business lines of your cars, which are low cost, eco, image, and family. Those are the car lines that you have. And then you have corporate, which are corporate budget decisions. Uh, there's one thing that everyone forgets. Now, these show all of the six main indicators of how you lead or what rank you end up within a sim at the beginning, middle, or the end, your revenues, etc. But really, it's your emissions, your revenues, top line, ROCE or ROS, return on capital employed, accumulated retained earnings, employee morale, and the value of your share. And it shows ranks of you versus the other teams. It gives feedbacks from the market, feedback from the other teams. And a really important thing that a lot of people ignore is the financial index. This isn't as important to begin with, but you have to look at gas prices to start with. If they start at $2 or $3, then a line that is a gas guzzler like image will not do as well by decision 3 or 4 if that index goes way up. So it's good to keep an eye on this. These aren't as important in the 5-week, 5 decision, 8-week course because we're not going to throw a recession at you. We're not going to have any plants, sales, or merger and acquisitions between the teams, but you will do a merger and acquisitions section where you want to buy Ford Motor Company or something else. We'll show you how that works when we get to that. So those aren't as important, the PCI and BI, but the gas price index is in your strategy about which line that you're promoting at that time. So each one of these just shows you kind of how would you do versus the other teams in each of the indicators. How was your revenue compared to the other teams? How was Rose is my favorite. I got a hat that says Rose on it. One of the teams someone else got me a t-shirt that had red team rules. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't wear that. I can't give out of the objective here. These are your team earnings. Now this, you have to know this is a turnaround. Nobody gets a flywheel that gets them a lot of return in earnings. So look at these returning earnings. If you just get them closer to not a negative, you've done good. That's not true of roast because when you employ your capital in demand, you can actually pop into positive territory here, as some of the teams did. Poor Blue never made it above water there in terms of growth. Morale and share value really follow how well you're doing on the other indicators, especially top line revenue. So these are just to kind of look at how is the results compared to the other teams doing. This has absolutely zero to do with your grade. If you crash and burn, you have the worst team in the history of this sim of hundreds we've done. You can still get an A in a class, but you just have to be honest. You have to say, "Oh my gosh, we went all in on eco. We thought we'd be the greatest eco. Mother Earth was going to love us. We'd go to heaven when we died because all we did to make the most energy efficient car in the universe. We had so many that we put out there that we had higher emissions than the image line did with this gas guzzler because we had millions of these gas friendly things, but they still put a little out. And when you added them all together so it's a very complex sim. It's not, it's real world. And so the decisions we get surprises as we go along with it. And validation is kind of the most important thing because there's some certain things you can't do here. When you go to the sliders and make decisions, you can't have one at zero. I ask you all to have a $2,000 loan to start so we don't go broke cash flow wise, the first decision. And finally, the if you run out of cash or zero cash or negative cash, it won't validate. So I'll help you all validate it's due every Saturday at noon. You have to be done with your decision, talk about it during the week, have a Zoom meeting or something Wednesday, Thursday, and validate Friday if you can, Saturday noon at the very latest, because I have to do a huge amount of every Saturday of decision, which would be week 3. I have to do a huge amount of um, calculation and analysis and sending you back feedback on what happened. So you have that analysis for your presentations and you can kind of look at it and use those slides. So let's jump real quickly into business line decisions first. You'll see here that we have, let me get this out of the way because I can't see my sliders with that. All right, here we have what the infamous sliders. You'll love and hate sliders by the time we're done. There's two categories here. Perception, you can pretty much ignore. Decisions are real life. And you look at each car line in a value proposition. And if you haven't had a really deep business course where you've had to do value chains and all that stuff, it's not a big deal. You're going to do this like a tremendous amount here because you're going to see the value chains, what were the responses of the market, and then you'll see each car line, the low cost, the family, the eco-friendly, and the image in terms of what were the results of what happened compared to what the market wanted, which is the famous white line, and then how you matched it. Now, a strategy is to say, yeah, I can actually, in image here, you can see that image is the gas guzzler, the high design, high engineering, high performance line. So look at these sliders. Some of them are way high, 8, 7, 6. The best thing to do when you do your first decision is stay somewhere in the middle, and like you're flying a jet or a helicopter, make tiny little changes. Don't push this way out, because every time you push this out, CapEx changes, meaning you have to match your supply to your demand. And we'll get into this more, and all the videos take you through how do you do that, what's the difference between the value proposition and the value chain, and how do they work for each one of these lines in the decision. Perception gives you a line that says, this is how I think the customers see it, and this is how I'm trying to match it. There's something called the cheat sheet that you'll download. And how can you possibly jump into this and know what customers think and know how to design a line if you don't know what each line wants? That's what the cheat sheet's for. It says, low cost. Yeah, they care about price, which you'll set in the corporate boxes for each line, and they care about, but they don't want an expensive car like image, but they don't obviously want as much fuel efficiency as eco does. Family cares a lot about things like, if you go down to marketing, they care a lot about dealership proximity. Image doesn't care as much about that because it's like buying a BMW. I'll drive, or a Jaguar, I'll drive, to the next county because there's only one Jag dealer in the county or something, unless you're in New York. But so there are differences in the customer groups and then what you choose there and your sliders. I know this is just a cursory overview. You can binge watch the videos. I'll answer any of your specific questions. And most importantly, you can jump in the first decision and try it, sandbox it, have some fun, do it, see what happens. And I'll just help you avoid the pitfalls of running out of money. Let's jump quickly over to corporate. We also have decisions in boxes about budgets for each lines, where you can fill in the boxes and you can budget your investment in your facility, which is your CapEx. Now the CapEx, your capital expenditures and people, plant, equipment, all that stuff, that goes up if you over-engineer automatically. So you have to be careful you don't over-engineer a line and then not be able to make that many cars because your capacity is down. So, and then there's facility investment, and we'll show you there's a whole rubric and methodology behind that. But you'll be just setting these prices. A lot of times you just leave them. I mean, it's a difference. It's an extremely elastic sim. So your price elasticity of demand is like, you're at $39. If you go to 40, you might lose half your market. So it's, it's the inverse of, it's very elastic, meaning you can't really do a whole lot without seeing that drop down, the elasticity of demand drop down, where the demand drops very quickly as you stratify. Now all right. I'm running low on time. Let me jump into Biz 45. This site is for you. We've done this to show you lots more tips and hints. This is kind of the first overwhelming page of what's all the stuff that I have to do before my first decision. It's not that big a deal, but it's good to see. Don't do things like not have a loan or not move your sliders at all, or it won't validate. We have to at least validate the sim so we get feedback from the market and from the other competitors. But most importantly, I mean, there's lots of kind of cool, fun stuff down here. It shows how does it work, what's that. It's got some positive feedback. It got some answers to some questions, but it's also got all the YouTube. So you've got our YouTube channel, which is Model Sim Professor, at Model Sim Professor. You can click on those and see some of those YouTubes. But what's cool about them is Paul and I have done one before each decision. So before decision one, watch this. Now it'll help save you watching three of the ones from the actual Harvard ones. But the decision one is really good. It shows how do I make a decision? What is the first decision? But that's kind of minor. That's like, all right, getting used to it, which you will. What's important is that every decision, you'll get a recap with all of the financials, all the teams, all the markets. We put these together, all the economics, all the curves. What happened? What was the demand? What was the supply? And what are the financials? Now, again, if you're a totally like marketing person who slept with finance, you don't care about accounting. It's like, hey, just show me the customers, let me make them happy. This connects the finances to marketing in a huge way because you're doing R&D, engineering, marketing, finance, and especially data science. There's a huge amount of AI in this, and you even have a whole AI section that you'll see. Let's see, where's decision? Okay, well, that's a two birds. That's a really great. That's really a good. That's really a good video because the sliders are. When you watch this video, you'll see two teams talking to each other who were really confused about the sim, and they crashed and burned, and then they brought themselves out and ended number one. Ace the Sim in the class is a good link. It kind of shows what are the most important slides and where are the 100 slides that show you how you make good decisions, and you can watch that in like 10 minutes. It's a video that does that. And then let me see, where is my capacity? Okay, this is probably the toughest part of the sim, is understanding the relationship between facility, capex, and demand, because it's heavy economics and you have to do a little math. You don't have to do calculus, you can, but you don't have to, because you have to look at what was my capacity for last period? What do I think my demand will be? What will the price be for that unit? And then you have to use this little formula down here, which is adding back depreciation since it's a non-cash entry, and subtracting the beginning capex, or your beginning per unit capex. All this really is showing you is that if you can engineer a product that has a high installed base with a low unit cost in a place where there are economies of scale, you're going to just take it away. You're going to have a flywheel you're going to have a blue ocean. It's going to be fantastic. This shows the economics and the finance of that. This is not nearly as complex as it looks, because there's like 3 or 4 boxes you fill in and 4 or 5 sliders, and it does all this for you then. So the generation of all this material and all of these feedback things that you get are given to you. They come to you. And we didn't see a really big recap here. Let me go with this. Let's me go with Diamond 2. This is like a full recap of all of the lost orders over inventory, all of the different. So talk about data science. It'll be more than you need, and you're like, well, why do I need all this stuff to do a few sliders? Because you can pick and choose for your final presentation. Say, here's financial one, here's financial two. I grabbed this, Coach T gave me this, I've got that. Okay, let me show this and that. You got your 7 slides. Do some talk on the bottom about it, and you got it done. The two of you of each team worked on it, got it done in 20 minutes, and you got an A+ on your final presentation because you worked hard through this whole thing and you got all this feedback by what you did on your sliders. So okay, we looked at most of those. We looked at a little bit of those, and we're gonna get out of here. I'm trying to keep this to a half hour because it's really just an overview of, what's going on, what's the balance. Normally what I do is I have one of our winning team students from a previous class come in and give a little pep talk and say, look, I was so overwhelmed. I was ready to say, this is crazy. I can't do all this. And by the time we were at the end, I had more fun than I'd ever had in class before. I've kept in touch with my team members. And I've got, you can tell I'm really old. I've got students from way back when heck was a pup, when they had horses pulling buggies. And I've got students that go way back there, and they are friends still, and they've helped each other with their careers. It's kind of and this is true of me. I was in one of the original sims with Michael Porter at Harvard long time ago with GE Healthcare. And we actually incorporated a lot of the model into some models we built in data science for GE Healthcare, and kind of worked together on it because we had this joint venture going with Harvard. And that was like an absolute kerosene model compared to what they do now. It's just amazing. And we were on mainframes, if you ever heard of a mainframe. And yeah, so now it's just amazing what we can do on a PC and on an iPhone that gives results instantly on decisions that we're making with the marketplace. But are there any questions before we let you get back to your Saturday? Wow, you are the smartest class I ever had. No questions at all? Oh my God, I'm honored. I'm teasing you. Well,
Professor, I have a
yes, go
quick
ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
So connecting with our teams, what's the first step there? Like just message them within the platform?
Yeah, yeah. What we do is we share each other's cell phones. Mine is area code 928-830-8467. I'm on tom.halstead at my.gcu.edu, and we share our cells with each of the two team members. You don't want to talk to the other teams because they're your enemy. I'm just teasing, but no, you're in the same class. We're all teammates. It's all cool, but you will see this gets a little competitive. I mean, on the ground school, it gets absolutely brutal. They have these tents they bring in into the classroom, and they huddle under the tent and they meet so the other teams can't hear what they're saying. And when they give a presentation, they do fake numbers to try to mislead the team of where they're going. That's how crazy it gets. But you'll see by the end, it gets really fun because it's like, oh, why did we do that? Why did they do that? But yeah, you just trade cells, put each other in a text group, which I'll be doing. I'll have each of you in a text group, each of the teams. Aaron Maria, Adrian, Kira, Princess, and Jacob. In those kind of, the three of us will be in each of those text groups if you have any specific questions. But yeah, it's not a big deal. You do have to get together and kind of look at the sliders and decide, because each of you will take two car lines and say, I'm going to do image and I'm going to do family. I'll decide I'm going to do eco, I'm going to do low cost. And then you compare notes and say, okay, where do we want to do as our kind of first decision here? You could do the whole thing in probably 20 minutes on a Zoom, but you could do it in 10 minutes and the first and the fifth decisions, but the second, third, and fourth decisions, which are weeks 4, 5, and 6, or topics 4, 5, and 6, you'll have to spend probably an hour, because you really have to look at what are the response of the market, what are the response of the competitors, where do you think they're going, and what do you want to do about this deliverable for the class? And you can reuse each other's deliverables. As I said, no API citations, not a lot of reading, not a bunch of this sort of, I'm into scholarship, I've got 2 and working on a 3rd doctorate. It's like ridiculous, all the scholarly stuff. But the cool thing is that you can do all these things together as a team and also as a whole class. So there's no such thing in this class as I don't know what you want to call it, plagiarism. I mean, we share everything freely. And we give cites. If the team member comes up with an idea, we cite them, not the APA. So when you turn this into Lopes, right, and it says 100% similarity on everything, it's because you all did the same slides in the same presentation. That doesn't mean anything. We're working as a team. This is like a corporate simulation. So the teamwork is very important, and sharing that. I'll be sharing your comments. If someone gives me an idea or ask a question, I get all kinds of questions because I'm up 24/7 with text. Text me, ask me questions. I'll give you the questions, but then I post the answer so everybody sees it, just so it's fair. That one person doesn't become like, okay, wow, I know all these secrets. I got them from Paul in town. You can get them all by watching all those videos if you want, but you can also just text me and I'll say, oops, you need a course correction here. But I can't do that just for one, so I have to do that for everybody. So I'll do that on a discussion question, or answer it in an announcement, or put it, as I don't know, one of our daily posts or something, or send it to everybody in messages. Or so just over communicate. Use your emails. I've got, if you want to use if you want to use your Gmail or your edu or whatever you want, but trade cells with each other so that you can at least text each other and figure out where can we meet, when can we do a Zoom together and look at the sim together. So that's not right away. You can get to know each other, but the first time you have to do it, and they do this on purpose, is there's that agreement that you have to drop into the CLC box. Both of each of you of the 3 teams have to drop that into the box to say, yeah, at least we met and we talked to each other. And that it's just an indicator that, okay, we have a functional team going on here. So, but after that, when you get into decision, you know, weeks 3, 4, and 5, and 6 and 7, when you do those 5 decisions, you will have to meet either more often, like 4 times for 15 to 20 minutes, or one big time for an hour, just depending on. I try to put you closely together. I know Jacob and I are going to have to work with Frances because she's in West Germany, but she has said, I'll do it. I'll come on early or you'll come on late. And I don't sleep anyway. So I can kind of put those two together. But in terms of, I try to put Arizona with it. So again, copy down my cell, text me. I'll put you into each of your team text groups so I can teach you. I can text you both as a whole class and within your individual teams if you have individual issues that you don't want the other teams to see.